Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, heart racing, wondering what would happen to everything you've built together if your spouse passed away before you? It's a thought none of us want to dwell on, but ignoring it won't make it go away. The truth is, many surviving spouses make critical mistakes in the weeks and months after losing their partner. Mistakes that can cost them their financial security and peace of mind when they're already dealing with heartbreak. Hello, friends. I know today's topic isn't easy to think about, but I promise this conversation could save you or someone you love from unnecessary hardship during an already difficult time. When we lose a spouse, grief can cloud our judgment, and without proper preparation, even smart people make decisions they later regret. Today, I'm sharing 5 costly mistakes many surviving spouses make and how you can avoid them. You know, I've seen it happen too many times. My neighbor Helen lost her husband of 47 years and was so overwhelmed with grief that she made decisions in those first few months that she's still paying for 5 years later. I don't want that to happen to you. Knowledge is power, and being prepared now can protect you later. The first critical mistake many surviving spouses make is rushing to pay off the mortgage. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? We've been taught our whole lives that debt is bad and paying off the house is good. But here's what financial advisors won't tell you on the first meeting. When your spouse dies, your income typically decreases significantly. Social Security benefits change, pension payments may be reduced or eliminated, and suddenly that cash you used to pay off the mortgage could have been your emergency fund. Instead of rushing to pay off the house, consider keeping that money liquid and accessible. Continue making your regular mortgage payments if you can comfortably afford them. That way you maintain financial flexibility during a time when you need it most. Remember, you can always pay down the mortgage later when your financial picture becomes clearer, but you can't easily get that money back once it's tied up in your home equity. If you're finding this information helpful, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. I share new videos every week with straightforward advice about the financial and practical challenges we face in our golden years. The kind of honest talk you won't always get from professionals who might have other interests in mind. The second devastating mistake I see far too often is making major financial decisions during the first year of grief. When Martin's wife passed away after their 50-year marriage, their financial advisor encouraged him to immediately invest her life insurance payout in an annuity product. Still in a fog of grief, Martin signed the papers, only to discover 6 months later that the product had high fees, surrender charges, and tied-up money he actually needed for medical bills. Grief affects not just our hearts but our brains. Studies show that grief impairs decision-making ability, concentration, and judgment, sometimes for a year or more. Unless it's absolutely necessary, try to avoid major financial moves like selling property, investing large sums, or making significant purchases during that first year. Instead, park any insurance proceeds or other windfall amounts in a safe, FDIC-insured bank account until the fog of grief begins to lift. If you must make decisions, bring a trusted, financially savvy friend or family member to meetings with financial professionals. An extra set of ears can catch details you might miss and help you avoid commitments you're not ready to make. Remember, most financial products and opportunities will still be available when you're thinking more clearly, despite what salespeople might tell you about limited time offers. What many don't realize is that the period after losing a spouse creates a perfect storm of vulnerability and opportunity. Not for you, but for those who might take advantage. You're emotionally raw, perhaps making financial decisions on your own for the first time in decades, and possibly managing larger sums of money from life insurance or retirement accounts than you're used to handling. This combination makes you a prime target for both well-meaning but misguided advice and outright financial predators. The third mistake that can devastate a surviving spouse is failing to secure important documents and update accounts promptly. It's a mistake that seems small at first, but can snowball into serious problems. Let me tell you about my friend Dorothy. When her husband passed away, she knew they had investments, but she didn't know exactly where or how to access them. He had always handled their finances, and she hadn't been involved in the details. By the time she sorted through their paperwork and found everything, she had missed crucial deadlines for required minimum distributions from his IRA, resulting in substantial tax penalties. Within the first month after losing your spouse, You need to obtain multiple copies of the death certificate, usually at least 10 to 15. You'll need these to change names on accounts, claim benefits, and handle other financial matters. Next, gather and organize all financial documents: bank statements, investment accounts, insurance policies, property deeds, car titles, and tax returns. Make a list of all accounts with account numbers, passwords, and contact information. This simple step can save you thousands of dollars and countless hours of stress. Now let's talk about something that might ruffle some feathers, but it needs to be said. Many adult children, with the best intentions, step in to help their surviving parent with finances after a death. But sometimes this help can lead to the fourth critical mistake: allowing well-meaning family members to take control of your finances too quickly or completely. I've seen situations where children convince their widowed parent to add them to bank accounts for convenience, only to have those assets counted against the parent when they later needed Medicaid for nursing home care. In other cases, family members who aren't financially savvy themselves give poor investment advice or pressure the surviving spouse to loan them money from the inheritance or insurance proceeds. You love your children and they love you, but grief affects everyone, and sometimes family dynamics become complicated when money's involved. Maintain your financial independence as much as possible. If you need help, consider working with a fee-only financial advisor who has a fiduciary duty to act in your best interest, rather than immediately turning over financial control to family members. If your children are genuinely concerned and want to help, they can accompany you to meetings with financial professionals rather than making decisions for you. If you're finding these insights valuable, I'd appreciate it if you'd take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me reach more people with this crucial information that most financial advisors won't tell you straight up. Plus, when you subscribe, you'll get notifications about my upcoming videos on protecting your assets and securing your financial future during these important years. Now let's tackle an uncomfortable truth about what happens after the funeral. Once the services are over and the casseroles stop coming, many surviving spouses face a painful reality. Friends and even family members start to drift away. The invitations become less frequent. The phone calls taper off. And this social isolation can lead to the fifth devastating mistake: making financial decisions out of loneliness or to maintain connections with others. Barbara, a widow for 3 years now, confided in me that she had loaned her deceased husband's golf buddy $25,000 for a sure-thing business investment. When I asked why she would risk so much of her limited savings, her answer broke my heart. He's the last person who still talks about Jim. When he calls, he shares memories of their golf games. I couldn't say no. Needless to say, that money is gone now, along with the friend who took advantage of her vulnerability. Loneliness can impair judgment as much as grief does. When we're lonely, we're more likely to say yes to financial requests or investments we would otherwise decline. We might spend money we can't afford on gifts for grandchildren or friends, hoping to maintain relationships, or we might fall prey to scammers who provide the attention and conversation we're missing. To protect yourself, build a social network that doesn't depend on your financial resources. Join community groups, take classes, volunteer, or get involved with faith communities where you can form relationships based on shared interests rather than money. Having these connections in place before you need them is crucial. Another reason why it's so important to have these difficult conversations now, while you and your spouse can prepare together. Continuing with our fifth point about loneliness-driven financial decisions, I want to share something that might surprise you. Did you know that seniors who have lost a spouse are nearly 3 times more likely to fall victim to financial scams than those who are still married? It's true, and it's not because they're less intelligent or more gullible. It's because grief and loneliness create a vulnerability that scammers are experts at exploiting. These predators know exactly what to say to gain trust. They'll research you online, mention your late spouse's name, or claim to be from organizations your spouse was connected to. They might even attend support groups for the bereaved, posing as fellow grieving spouses while scouting for potential targets. It sounds terrible because it is, but hiding from this reality won't protect you or your loved ones. One of the most common tactics is the romance scam, where someone develops a relationship with a widow or widower online, gradually building emotional intimacy before asking for financial help. After losing a life partner of many decades, the desire for companionship is natural and healthy, but it can also be exploited by those with ulterior motives. To protect yourself, establish a policy of not making any financial commitments, loans, or investments with new people who enter your life after your spouse's passing, at least for the first 2 years. This doesn't mean you can't form new friendships or even find love again, but it does mean keeping your financial life separate until trust is well established and verified. When in doubt, discuss any financial request with a trusted advisor or family member before proceeding. And remember this crucial point: legitimate financial opportunities don't come with pressure tactics or urgent deadlines. Anyone pushing you to act now before it's too late is likely trying to prevent you from doing your due diligence. A real opportunity will still be there after you've had time to research and consider it carefully. Now let's talk about something that's rarely discussed but incredibly important: preparing for these challenges while both spouses are still alive and well. The best protection against all 5 mistakes we've discussed doesn't start after the funeral. It starts now, with open communication between partners. Many couples fall into traditional roles when it comes to finances. Often one spouse handles investments and bill paying, while the other manages other aspects of their life together. While this division of labor might work well during the marriage, it creates a dangerous knowledge gap when one spouse passes away. I encourage all couples to have regular financial meetings where both partners are fully informed about where accounts are held, how bills are paid, and what insurance policies are in place. Consider it an act of love to ensure your spouse won't be financially vulnerable if you're no longer there. Another powerful preventive measure is to build a trusted team before you need them. This might include a fee-only financial advisor with fiduciary responsibility, an elder law attorney familiar with estate planning, and an accountant experienced with tax issues specific to widows and widowers. Interview these professionals together while both spouses are still alive, so the surviving spouse will already have established relationships with people they can trust during that vulnerable first year. I realize we've covered some difficult territory today. Thinking about losing a spouse isn't pleasant, and planning for it might feel like inviting bad luck. But I've seen firsthand the difference between those who prepare for this possibility and those who don't. The prepared widow or widower still experiences the same grief, but they're spared the additional trauma of financial crisis or exploitation during an already devastating time. If you found this information valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. More importantly, share it with someone who might benefit from this conversation. It could be the most important gift you give to a friend or loved one, the gift of protection and preparedness during one of life's most difficult transitions. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced any of these challenges, or do you have additional advice to share with our community? Your wisdom could help someone else navigate these difficult waters. Remember, planning for the worst doesn't mean expecting it. It means loving your spouse enough to protect them even when you're not there. It means giving them the gift of security along with your lifetime of memories. By avoiding these 5 costly mistakes, you're ensuring that the life you've built together remains secure, regardless of which of you goes first. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.